for another creepy and scary TikTok reaction video. If you haven't already, please hit that like and subscribe button because we're about to dive in deep into the most mysterious, disturbing, scary theories on TikTok and YouTube. Remember, this is strictly for entertainment purposes only. It is up to us to distinguish fact from fiction and do our own research on everything. Without further ado, let's dive into tonight's episode.
Destination achieved. Welcome to Dark Waters 9. Oxygen levels are at 99%. Good luck, JetskiChucK.
Damn, that was pretty interesting. It says, experiment shows that an energy never totally disappears. It says, when we cut a leaf, expose it to a Kirlian photograph experiment, something extraordinarily happens. The energy of the leaf remains, lingering in the exact space it once occupied. This is a remarkable discovery, helps us reflect about a deeper truth. Nothing in the universe ever truly disappears. Energy doesn't vanish. It transforms, flows, and continues to exist. I'm curious to how long that line stays there. Like, how long is that available? But reading further, now considering the energy you pour into the world, every thought, action, intention ripples outward, leaving a lasting imprint. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. What kind of energy are you leaving behind? This is actually interesting. It looks like they took a leaf from that was almost shriveling. What type of experiment is this? Kirlian? Sounds like Cleon or something. We gotta type this in, guys. Alright, let's type this in.
A static charge, just like that, of the human hand. And you can pick up also the charges of food. For example, after you cook the food, a lot of that static charge right there, that coronal charge, remember that word, 2020? But that charge starts to go away. And what they noticed was people who had health conditions, over time, their health condition got worse. They would notice that also the charge in their hands would start to disappear. So this was a healthier person. And then as they become unhealthy, they noticed all of this static charge starting to leave. Or you could call it light energy. You can call it ether, you could call it so many different things. You know, that's the charge that comes off the hand. And we can't see this. This is why when people are doing like energy healing or hand healing and healing people with their hands, which is considered woo-woo and all that nonsense, that's the energy that's coming off the hand that's starting to heal the person that they're working on. They're basically allowing their energy that's being transferred from their hands onto the person, and that's allowing them to heal.
When he's explaining this static charge, that this energy we can't see, that's got me thinking of like Dragon Ball Z and like how they be doing those Kamehameha waves and all those beams. But this is a way we can actually see it. A palm indented in stone. No one knows how it done it. Maybe if he had a charge strong enough, he could have indented that rock. Let me show you what I'm talking about while we're on the subject. We're going to keep diving down this Kirlian energy, but I wanted to show you this Buddhist palm in the stone. All right, guys, it took me a little bit of digging, but maybe that mystery Kirlian energy we can't see, maybe it had something to do with this. Check this out.
You come to number 9. and you're feeling just a little bit brave and willing to make the scramble, it's really not that bad. You'll come up here and you'll find a rock with a handprint in it. Just my hand for a size comparison. You can see the palm, the knuckles, the inside marks, all of those are there. You can see that. This is said to be the handprint in rock of the 7th Karmapa, a very important lama who lived around 500 or 600 years ago. Many lamas are known to perform the miracle of putting their handprints in rock. Even up to present day, the 17th Karmapa has done it a couple of times. So this is an extraordinarily holy location, and we feel very lucky because there was a massive earthquake here about 13 years ago, and a lot of the mountain fell down, but fortunately, this handprint remained accessible.
I mean, it makes sense. Could this hand been vibrating that healing energy or whatever type of energy? What if it was hitting so hard it was able to indent a rock? You guys tell me your thoughts below. It's an interesting theory. There was a lot thrown at me on this video. There's some gems, I believe, and I wanted to make sure I wrote down as much as I could to keep diving in on this.
Charge, just like that, of the human hand. And you can pick up also the charges of food. For example, after you cook the food, a lot of that static charge right there, but that charge starts to go away. And what they noticed was people who had health conditions, over time, their health condition got worse. They would notice that also the charge in their hands would start to disappear. So this was a healthier person. And then as they become unhealthy, they noticed all of this static charge starting to leave. Or you could call it light energy. You can call it ether, you could call it so many different things. You know, that's the charge that comes off the hand. And we can't see this. This is why when people are doing like energy healing or hand healing and healing people with their hands, which is considered woo-woo and all that nonsense, that's the energy that's coming off the hand that's starting to heal the person that they're working on. They're basically allowing their energy that's being transferred from their hands onto the person, and that's allowing them to heal. The static charge.
That was interesting. I didn't catch it the first time, but he said the food actually loses its charge a lot after you cook it. That's interesting. This charge, man, is just, I'm telling you.
Great Kirlian photography that was done on fruit which was cooked and fruit that was not cooked. And the electrical conductivity of the fruit which was not cooked was just crazy. You saw all the electric coming out of the organic fruit, and then the other side, which was cooked, you saw it all completely gone. Then what happens is we're destroying all the structure. We're cooking it down to nothing. So, you know, with too much cooking food all the time, or going out to eat, or eating foods that have been cooked, you're not eating anything that's raw with living structured water in it. You're cooking it and breaking it all down. If you think about it, eating fresh, beautiful fruit is absolutely wonderful for your body because you're eating it in its perfect structured form rather than cooking it. If you take that same fruit and you cook it down, well, now you're starting to break down all the enzymes. And if you cook it for too long, then it could mess you up. Now, people used to use fire a lot, and they would only cook for a short amount of time sometimes. They would do a quick cook, almost like a fast cook. And that was kind of it. But, you know, now we got ovens that can cook for 45 minutes or 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever. You could slow cook something for 13 hours. And there was a great Kirlian photography that was...
Man, I gotta stop slow cooking pot roast. I gotta get some more fruit in me, guys. For real.
Named Semyon Kirlian back in 1934 in Russia perfected a form of photography where you can photograph mass and you can photograph the energy coming from it. This thing we're living in is a massive energy. Do you know there's about 11 million kilowatt hours per pound potential energy locked up in the electrons in the atoms of our body? We're just walking dynamos. See, there's an energy flowing to and through us, and you got to let it flow freely to and through you, and it'll improve everything that it connects with.
In 1939, Russian scientist Semyon Kirlian accidentally discovered that if an object on a photographic plate is subjected to a strong enough electrical charge, an image is created on the plate. By photographing the coronal discharge that occurs between an electrically grounded object and the electrode generating the field, the sparks captured on film show multicolored, multi-frequency energy waves ranging from below infrared to above ultraviolet. These images have since become known as Kirlian photography or biofield electrography. Kirlian photography has now been studied and tested extensively in many reputable laboratories around the world, and has shown consistent color, shape, and frequency correlations with various emotional and physical states. For example, UCLA Neuropsychiatric Institute's Dr. Thelma Moss has recorded consistent patterns correlating fingertip coronas with specific emotions. Healthy, happy, relaxed subjects regularly exhibit wide blue and white coronas, while stressed, anxious, or nervous subjects consistently blotchy red coronas. In another study, she found that when photographed together, close friends generate brighter and more convergent coronas than strangers. Being photographed with strict authority figures produces smaller coronas, while being photographed with unassuming, unintimidating people produces larger coronas. When two people place their fingers on the same film, both images always come out clearly, but if they look into each other's eyes while the photo is taken, one of the fingerprints is blanked out and disappears. Dr. Moss's strange findings sparked interest at the U.S. Heuristic Institute, where they performed their own Kirlian biofield experiments with intimate couples. When partners were instructed to place their fingers on the film and focus unpleasant, unloving thoughts towards one another, their coronal patterns did not merge at all. When the couples focused pleasant, loving thoughts towards one another, their patterns began to merge. And when they kissed each other during the photographs, their coronal boundaries dissolved into one.
That's interesting. I do want to add real quick that it does say when we get to heaven that the husband and wife shall become one. What did they really mean by that? And we're learning that these energies that we can't see, two loved ones merge? What is really going on? Real quick, just to add to that, this is Genesis 2:24. For this reason a man shall leave his father and his mother and be joined to his wife, and they should become one flesh. So that's interesting that those two energies become one when they have loving thoughts towards one another. Fascinating.
Some people were even able to withhold their coronas by tensing all the muscles in their bodies. In experiments with Dr. J.L. Hickman, psychic Uri Geller was able to consciously direct the shape of his fingertip coronas, making circles, squares, straight lines, and triangles at will. The International Kirlian Research Association released that the German magazine Esoterra describes an interpersonal study conducted with Kirlian photography. Two individuals in a psychiatrist's office were asked to put their fingers next to each other and take a picture. They were asked to return once a week for 3 weeks. The Kirlian photos revealed the man to be very attracted to this woman, large, expansive corona in her direction. But her corona discharge indicated that she did not feel an attraction towards him, small, tight corona. The second week revealed the man to be extremely persistent, and it looked as if she might be more responsive, slightly converging coronas. The third week shows two bright, happy coronas blending, and we are told that they are living happily ever after. Dr. Moss also conducted experiments showing that cancerous tissue is easily distinguished from healthy tissue using Kirlian imaging. In one study, she was able to separate 100 healthy control rats from 100 other rats injected with cancer simply by the dramatic difference in corona emanations. Romanian Dr. Lone Dumitrescu also used Kirlian imaging to detect cancer tissue. He screened 6,000 industrial workers for cancer and found 47 malignant tumors, while conventional doctors found only 41. By analyzing the coronal discharge channels, their geometry, color, and energetics, he was able to detect cancer better than traditional imaging and laboratory tests. Various studies involving plant coronas have gleaned interesting information as well. For example, the viability of seeds can be determined by Kirlian images, since fertile seeds show much larger coronal ejections than dead seeds. Healthy seeds have a deep blue aura, and as the root tips sprout, they show up pinkish red, indicating where the most active growth is taking place. Researchers also found that dew forms on plant leaves in exactly the same locations as maximum flare patterns. They found that male plant stamens always come out blue, while the female ovary photographs are always gold. And most impressively, when a leaf is torn in half, then photographed, the outline of the entire leaf is still clearly visible in its discharge pattern. Eric Pepin wrote, "Physical evidence of the energy body exists, and a number of different sources document it. The first of these is Russian engineer Semya Kirlian, who discovered that living tissue emits electromagnetic force fields that show up on photosensitive paper. Using his photographic technique, a leaf with a portion of it cut out still shows the outline of its missing part. Even though it is not there physically, the photograph shows an outline as if it was. This prompts suggestions that Kirlian photography reveals the energy body. Kirlian photographs show energy emanating from the body."
That reminds me of, like, you know how people say, like, say if something happens to one of their limbs and they could still feel it even though it's not there. It's like a phantom limb or something, but they can still feel it as they're moving it. Maybe that has something to do with this Kirlian discharge or this energy force that we can't see.
Kirlian photographs show energy emanating from the body. A picture of a hand, for example, depicts the fingers illuminated by energy. If two people touch fingertips, the energy appears to fight until both people accept the presence of the other. Another interesting case involves people who have amputated feet and legs. These people frequently report intense pain originating from phantom limbs. When a person places their hand on the area of pain, where the missing limb would be, and massages it as if there was a hand or limb there, the pain stops. At the point of death, the human body inexplicably loses several ounces of weight. Studies have also shown that when photographed with light-sensitive film, for an amount of nanoseconds, less than a second, a large illumination expands from the body and disappears upon death. These examples all point toward the conclusion that a separate body or being composed of energy inhabits the physical human body. The bioelectric fields captured by Kirlian photographs are postulated by many to be an expression of the aura, representing our chi life force energy. Psychics, mystics, and shamans the world over in traditions including Christian, Chinese, Japanese, Egyptian, and Tibetan have all talked about being able to see a faint multicolored corona or halo around people's physical bodies and heads. This aura emanates from the energy body, which exists within and permeates the physical body. Healthy, positive, and spiritual people are said to have glowing white gold auras, while unhealthy, negative, or immoral people have more subdued, darker color auras. Each person's aura is said to be unique, but constantly changing based on thoughts, mood, disease, environment, and other factors. Experiments with Kirlian photographs and bioelectrography have proved very consistent with ancient definitions of the aura. Michael Talbot wrote, "One mystical phenomenon that appears to involve the ability to see reality's frequency aspects is the aura, or human energy field. The notion that there is a subtle field of energy around the human body, a halo-like envelope of light that exists just beyond normal human perception, can be found in many ancient traditions. In India, sacred writings that date back over 5,000 years refer to this life energy as prana. In China, since the 3rd millennium BC, it has been called qi, and is believed to be the energy that flows through the acupuncture meridian system. Kabbalah, a Jewish mystical philosophy that arose in the 6th century BC, calls this vital principle nephesh, and teaches that an egg-shaped bubble of iridescence surrounds every human body. In their book Future Science, writer John White and parapsychologist Stanley Krippner list 97 different cultures that refer to the aura with 97 different names. Adrian Cooper wrote, "The aura is also an extremely accurate indicator of spiritual attainment. Highly spiritual, evolved people will be instantly recognizable by a vivid, clean, dynamic aura, the most prominent feature of which is an intense, bright golden yellow area extending from and around the crown of the head. Sometimes the aura can be so intense it can even be viewed by people not usually possessing the ability of auric vision. It is also this intense golden aura around the head of highly spiritual people that gives rise to the so-called halo, as often, for example, depicted around the head of Jesus or a saint. Skeptics claim that Kirlian photography is merely capturing variances in pressure, humidity, temperature, voltage, etc., and not some mystical aura. It is true that New Age fairs and internet sites sell aura cameras, often marketing them as Kirlian cameras. These are indeed misleading and serve no practical purpose beyond that of a mood ring. However, electrophysiological studies have shown that corona emanation of true Kirlian photographs does not relate to temperature, perspiration, galvanic skin response, vasoconstrictions, or dilations. While it may be easy for some to discount 97 traditions around the world and their descriptions of the aura, it is much harder to discount Dr. Moss and Dr. Dumitrescu's amazing work with cancer detection, or the Heuristic Institute's results involving couples. Dr. Edward Condrit wrote, "The greatest advance in the utilization of Kirlian photography was made by the efforts of the German doctor Peter Mandel, who was trained as an acupuncturist. He observed that by treating disease states with acupuncture points, the corresponding deficiencies in the Kirlian photograph would change. After years of research, Dr. Mandel has developed a diagnostic and treatment program based on Kirlian analysis. Disease states are caused by energy blockages. The Kirlian photograph helps to determine the overall energy flow of the body and locations of energy blockage, which are manifested in the disease state. Dr. Mandel has categorized types of energy patterns on the Kirlian into endocrine, toxic, and degenerative. Endocrine is the pre-disease state. The patient has symptoms, but there is no discernible pathology. The Kirlian can be extremely valuable in locating the area of blockage. The second type of disturbance in the energy pattern is the toxic state. This is when tissue changes develop, such as inflammation, congestion, and blockages of energy flow in the body. The third type is the degenerative type, where the body begins to show destructive tissue changes.
That is fascinating. Kirlian photography is what it's called. Interesting.
I think Kirlian photography ended the debate on whether we should be plant-based or not. If you haven't heard of Kirlian photography, go watch my last videos. This is the energy of a cooked tomato versus an uncooked tomato. And this is the image of a medium rare piece of meat versus a raw piece of meat. You can see the energy differences between the uncooked food versus the cooked food. Another thing to notice is the difference in the color of the auras between the tomato and the meat. The tomato has a purple aura, representing spirituality, the crown chakra, one's higher self, while the meat contains pinks and reds, representing the lower physical aspect of oneself. Another thing we need to take note of is the fact that cooking food changes the energetic property of it. Even when the tomato was only slightly cooked, the energetic field dropped dramatically. Same goes for the piece of meat that was only cooked at medium rare. So when you take into consideration that most meat is cooked either medium well or well done, the fact that the major difference between a rare and a well done is the amount of blood in it. The majority of energy from the meat is coming from the blood. That's why in its raw state it still has so much energy, which makes sense because there are animals that eat raw meat. Another thing that needs to be taken note of is organic versus inorganic. Look at the difference between the organic broccoli and the conventional broccoli, the organic tomato and the conventional tomato, the organic mushroom and the unorganic mushroom. If you want more videos like this, make sure you hit that plus sign and tag somebody below. Peace.
Check out this book. It's called Kirlian Photography, and it was very fascinating. With Kirlian photography, they basically took plants, they took coins, they took all types of things, and they put it on, basically they took pictures of these things and they put them up on this screen, and when they would take the photos, they'd be able to see the aura of the photo. So that's basically a hand, and they did this with plants, they did this with different types of foods, they did this with all different types of things, and it was really, really cool when I started learning all about it. But what was fascinating about the Kirlian photography is the fact of when they would do these pictures, and they would take these pictures like this, people who had some sort of illness going on in the body, they actually, their glow or their aura of, say, like their fingers was actually diminished. So they were able to find out if a person was suffering from some sort of illness based on Kirlian photography. Now, it wasn't always 99% accurate, just to put that out there as well too. But this book pretty much would go through and show all these different people and the halos in which were represented when they took the photos. And it was interesting because all this was proven back in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, that all of this stuff shows and that you could see all of this energy. And it was interesting too, because like this person right here, you could see the tips of their fingers, the energy has started to diminish over time, right? And then that started to show that they were suffering from some sort of illness, especially in their fingertips. So a lot of people, if they're suffering from, for example, like poor circulation in the fingertips or in the fingers, Kirlian photography can show that. And this was another person as well too, if you see that. So that was their hand, and see how these fingers don't have the aura. And this is basically what they were showing over time, was when people were getting older and they started to develop such as an issue, then they would basically start to show in their Kirlian photography. And this book is it's just a life changer. It's really cool to research this topic because these are things we cannot see, right? We can only see with our visible eyes and the light spectrum in which we've been shown. But Kirlian photography can show us a whole different world of different things we can't see, such as auras. And that's another great topic that I think is really important to learn about. Because, you know, when you look into like all the ancient books, they talk about like halos, like right here it even says about halos. All the ancient books, they talk about our aura, our essence, our energy, you know, everything that's around us, and our health can show that in an aura, in a picture. They have aura readings even in Sedona as well too. But this book, like for example, let me see if I can find one here. So this person right here was 39 years old, suffering from an anxiety depression syndrome. Check out this book.
Man, I wanted to hear that, see that last part. Man, I got to get that book. I'm going to get that book, guys. But man, I love this. This is a great topic. The energy we cannot see. Is this the same as the ether? But we could see high amounts of ether. You know, is chi, is this all the same thing? Drop your comments below. Or is it different?
Kirlian, who saw a demonstration of high-frequency electrotherapy instrument in Krasnodar, Russia. And he noticed a tiny flash of light between the electrodes and the person's skin. The object was then placed in a light cell-proof chamber exposed to electrical fields that caused the object to give off electrons, enabling the object to be photographed. This was enough to make Kirlian start experimenting and prompt him to take photographs by using high-frequency generators, generating 75,000 to 200,000 electrical oscillation per second. That was developed in 1940 AD. A bioplasma corona, or a definite system of ionized particles that surrounded and penetrated the body, was seen. This discharge of light were either blue, red, white, yellow, or a combination of each. You know, the same colors as the human aura. Get this. This light can be detected from objects, whether animate or inanimate. For all things are made from atoms and thus have some form of life in it. Kirlian photography ties in with the human magnetic, was discovered much later by Semyon Kirlian, who saw a demonstration of how
Kirlian photography is a novel approach to creating images that uses the same fundamental principles as what happens in that plasma globe. It just takes it a step further. It's brilliant. It takes advantage of the fact that combining high voltage with sharp points, like the tip of these pliers, creates corona. And corona produces light, so essentially Kirlian photography uses plasma to create an image. It's unlike anything you've ever seen. You can photograph knives, pipes, coins, jalapenos, drill bits, silver chains, screwdrivers, circuit boards, and even apples. They all look breathtaking.
I wonder if they were trying to do that when they made this coin. And I wonder what happens if they use those ancient coins that we found, the Hebrew words on it. Drop your thoughts below.
At UCLA, Dr. Thelma Moss explores the strange world of Kirlian photography.
Let's say that there are about 6 different words that we can describe for this effect, depending on who you are. If you are a conventional physicist, you will call it a corona discharge. And that means it's an electrical emanation caused by the current and the voltage going through the object. Some people who are more inclined to the occult or to the mystical will call it an aura, and they will compare, For example, in famous paintings, whether it's of Buddha or Jesus or Mohammed or anywhere around the world, there are these auras that are circling around the head, and they would like to believe that what we are photographing with this electrical photography is a representation of that, something invisible to the eye, but which exists in and around the body. That's another word. Then if you want to be sort of non-committal, as I prefer to be, I would call it an emanation or some outpouring of an energetic thing. The Russians call this energetic thing by a technical name bioplasma.
Throughout this video, you'll see images from what's called Kirlian photography. They use high voltage electricity to expose the aura of person, place, or things to the naked eye. It also exposes the energy emission and how energy is lost. As you can see, this is the human eye, the brilliance of the flames of energy and how they point in different directions. This is how it should look under normal circumstances. This here is a star fruit. Looks like flames of fire or electricity coming out from the star fruit. Brilliant, beautiful. This is how your energy should look, specifically from your hands whenever you wake up from a good night's rest. The apple. They've done a lot of studies before and after on the palms of the hands and how energy is lost. We'll get into that after this next photo, which this is a flower. This is how the bee sees the world, how it sees the aura of the flower, and also how it sees your aura as well. It is said that yin energy is in the left hand predominantly, yang energy is in the right hand predominantly. This is more of a palmistry breakdown of different traits or different fortunes, depending on if your energy is low or high in the body or how constant you keep that frequency or vibration. Your energy, depending on if you smoke, drink, or do any type of substances, this is how your energy can start to look, even just after 10 minutes of smoking. They did before and after pictures on people, and the energy gets very low. Also be careful about who you touch as well, because people with low energy deplete people with high energy. And under normal circumstances, when you wake up after a good night's rest, not a lot of things on your mind, your meridians, when you go to sleep, they open up. So when you wake up, this is how your energy should be emitting. The flames should be bright and brilliant. Throughout this video,
He said meridians. That kind of reminded me of what's it called? The midichlorians in Star Wars, because everything was registered in midichlorians. So that was interesting. And then the left hand yin and the right hand yang. You say, which one you trying to catch? Yin or yang? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, y'all. That's it for today's video. If you made it this far, the code word is energy. Be sure you drop energy in the comments below. Lets me know you made it through the entire video, and I just want to say thank you for doing that. Huge shout out to all my buckled up buccos and all my Darkwater 9 explorers. Huge shout out to Jennifer's Prasan and Brad Cox. I appreciate you guys. The official Darkwaters 9 research division. Everyone on the Swivel Gang. And I'll see you guys on the next one. It's JetskiChucK signing out. Catch you on the next one.